Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. It's been a little while since I have been here on YouTube. I just had one of those busy weeks where the first thing that had to get dropped was hobbies. So I wanted to film, I had videos planned. I could not get them done, however. So anyway, I feel slightly recharged, ready to dive back into my regular filming schedule. So anyway, I hope that you guys have been having a good week or having a good February. Today is going to be some speed reviews. So these are all products that I have been testing for the past month or two, or even longer sometimes. Things that I'm ready to take out of my testing basket and put into my collection. So shall we start with the palettes? So this palette from Sydney Grace is Sydney Grace's newest palette. So this is a collaboration with Kendra Matthies, who is a bridal makeup artist. So this is called the Unveiled palette. And this is what it looks like. It is a very pretty palette. So being a makeup artist, she designed this to be super user-friendly to create the three main looks she gets asked for as a bridal makeup artist. So we have the pink look, the bronzy brown look, and the cool toned look. So I've done several looks with it at this point. I'm finally ready to give you my thoughts. So first of all, it is pretty matte heavy, which usually I do prefer there to be a few more shimmers, but I find that the mattes in this very easy to blend. I had no problem creating looks that I liked. And since it does lack a little bit in the light shimmer department, it does make up for by having a really nice matte white that you can use to create that brightness that I like to have on like my inner corner or inner lid. This shade here called High Bride is a very different shade than Sydney Grace usually does. They usually have a very creamy kind of molten shimmer formula. This one is very, very sparkly. So I use this very sparingly and it was very, very beautiful. Just know you don't need very much of this particular shade. Speaking with the rest of these pinks, I thought that this burgundy over here, really, really good. I really thought this drew my whole pink look together and very, very easy to blend. These three, these are not my favorite pinks. So what I tended to do with these was mix them with this brown right here so that they weren't quite so bright popping pink, which on me, these three shades, yeah, they're just not my favorites. But mixing them with those browns, I was able to create a look that I was very happy with. So I can still use them. Neutral brown row, very pretty. If you use this very intense shade called Tie the Knot over here, you're gonna get a super glam look. It is like a chocolate brown with beautiful golden sparkles through it. If you're looking for swatches of this whole palette, I did do a video review where I swatched it out, compared it to other Sydney Grace palettes, and then I did a couple of looks with it. So make sure and check that out if you're looking for all the swatches. And as for the bottom row, I am a sucker for a really basic neutral eye look, neutral cool toned eye look, I should say. So using this in my outer corner, this to the crease, and this to brighten up the inner eye just actually creates a really beautiful, simple look. And if you decide to use this very intense shade here called It's Your Day, you will end up with a very, very intense look indeed. And this matte black is very nice, very easy to use and nice and deep. I think comparing it to all the blacks and the other Sydney Grace palettes I have, this is the most pigmented one. In the video where I compared it to other Sydney Grace palettes, I did determine that this actually isn't as dupeable as you might think in the Sydney Grace collection. So it does stand on its own as its own palette, which I was happy to find. You know, I don't want to have a ton of dupes in my collection either, so I was happy to see that. You should definitely check this palette out if you are into mattes. I think that you will enjoy it. All right, one more eyeshadow palette. So this cute little palette, look at this with the dolphin and the Maltese, is that what that is? So cute. This is from Peripera, which is a K-beauty brand, and this was sent to me from Stylevana to review. So when I first tried it in a Get Ready With Me video, I was testing these shades over here, and I remember thinking I was very pleased with the level of pigmentation. Sometimes with K-beauty brands, you don't really expect a whole lot of pigmentation. With that particular look, I actually got good pigment. The next time I used this palette, which wasn't on camera, I did use these shades over here, and I felt like I got more of the typical K-beauty experience where this pigmentation is very soft. So I want to make sure that was clear, that these shades, pretty softly pigmented. This one has a bit more pigment, which you would hope with deeper shades like this, but they're still not super pigmented. These two shades here, beautiful sparkly shades, sparkle topper shades I should call them. One is peachy and one is more cool. They are so pretty. And my fingers were slightly stained from other swatches I did, so that's why they're looking kind of funky, but hopefully you can tell what those types of shades are. This crazy, beautiful everyday eye look, and I will continue to use it. I really like it, so thank you so much again to Stylevana for sending it to me. Let's talk about a mascara. So the one I have been testing last month is another K-beauty product. So this is the Clio Kill Lash Superproof Mascara, the Volume Curling Edition. I actually found myself pretty disappointed with this mascara. With volume curling, I was expecting a lot of volume and honestly a lot of lift, and this didn't do either of those things for me, sadly. So this is what the wand looks like. I had no qualms with the wand, but I just felt like using this over and over and over again, I expected it to get better. You know how sometimes mascaras start off not so good, then they get better. This never got better for me. It continued to look kind of meh on my lashes, but this also was very difficult to get off. And sometimes I can forgive that if the mascara is outstanding, but this just wasn't outstanding for me, so that was just another mark against it, unfortunately. I don't think this is one I'm going to continue to use up to like its shelf life. This is just one that I'm going to declutter, sadly. Or, you know, at the end of the year, I always do a mascara roundup, so I'm not exactly getting rid of it, but it's decluttered in the sense that I won't be using it again. So I have been mentioning in a few videos that a subscriber sent me a super generous gift, and I have been testing a lot of things in that package. Sorry, I've got a hair stuck to my lip and I can't find it. These next few items were all from her, so thank you again so much. Oh my goodness, this was such a beautiful surprise and wonderful gift, and I've been having so much fun testing them. So first up, I have the shadow from Tom Ford. I have tried this formula before, but not this shade. So this shade is called Opale or Opale, Opale, however you want to pronounce that. I really don't know, but it is a very, very soft, shimmery shade. This formula is nice and whipped, super easy to apply, pretty much exactly the same as the Charlotte Tilbury cream shadows. This shade, I honestly wasn't expecting it to do much, but I was actually pretty impressed. It had some really nice reflect to it, and when worn as a single eyeshadow, it just looked very ethereal and pretty, honestly. I felt pretty. It's not gonna be something that's super flashy or attention grabbing. It's just pretty. And as always with this formula, just very comfortable to wear on the eyelids. To make it last a little bit longer, I do wear eye primer, and I did actually dust a little bit of powder over it as well, just to help set it, and that did help it wear longer. So if you have the same problem as me, where these just kind of want to melt off your eyelids, hopefully those two things will help you out. So next up, we have these beautiful shadows from Victoria Beckham. These are called the Lid Lusters, and I've been testing the shades Mink, Tea Rose, and Honey. Let's start with Mink, because I do feel like of the three, this actually has the nicest, creamiest, most pigmented formula. It is intensely pigmented. When I wore it, I used a tiny amount. I barely put my finger in there, and it is a pretty intense deep shade. Look at that, like a pewtery shade. It is super spreadable. I'm not using any pressure here. Just look at that. Very, very pretty. It has a beautiful reflect to it. So yes, when I use it so that it looks like this on my eyelid. So super, super sheared out, but it still looks so creamy and so pretty when you do that. I just want to point out how pigmented these are. These are nothing like Hourglass or Bodyography. These have a bit more heft to them. And the packaging with the tortoiseshell, I believe that's what this is called, packaging, very luxe and heavy and pretty. It feels lovely to use. Tea Rose is the shade that I personally find the most wearable. It is also very pigmented, but just being a pink, you know, I find it easier to wear. I'm gonna shear it out a little bit so hopefully you can see all the sparkle. See, it's very, very sparkly. And I really enjoy wearing this. Very, very pretty. I just wouldn't say it's quite as pigmented as Mink. So this last shade, Honey, I think actually has a slightly different formula than the other two. It's a bit more dry, not as pigmented, not as spreadable. Honestly, I found it the least special. Definitely still wearable, but probably in my mind, not worth the luxury price. So this is a gold with sparkles, but wearing it, like I said, I just didn't find it to be, you know, that special. And it might just be the shade and my coloring. It probably would look spectacular on someone with a different skin tone than me, but this one does seem a little bit more dry than the other two. Now let's talk about this one from Hourglass. So this is one of the scattered light eyeshadows, which I've never tried these before. I have tried shadows like them, but never the real deal here. I say real deal just because I feel like these came out before a lot of like the dupes came out for this. These have been out for a long time. This is the shade Smoke, and I adore this. This is so beautiful, right up my alley. The shimmers are tiny. It's like super, super micro sparkle, and the color is just right. It's one of those that it's not too deep, but it does still show up. Very ethereal, which I know I keep using that word, but I do like ethereal looking makeup, and that just hits the spot. Delightful. And it's the same with the Hourglass ones, the Victoria Beckham ones, the Tom Ford ones. I always need to use an eye primer. And if the formula isn't too sparkly, I will set it with a powder. I don't think I set the Hourglass one with a powder, but using a primer with this one really did help to keep it from creasing and fading. Okay, so this foundation from Estee Lauder, classic product, right? So this is the Double Wear. I had never tried it before. I had tried the Double Wear Sheer, but never the classic foundation. So I have the shade 1N1. And when I first put it on, I was actually a little surprised at how nice and thinly it wanted to sit on my skin. I expected this to be kind of thick and hefty with kind of its reputation of just being super long wearing. And I think you could get it to look thick and hefty if you use too much. I actually found out pretty quickly you don't need very much of this. In order to avoid wasting product, I think I am gonna have to buy a pump for this one. It does seem pretty silly that they don't sell it with a pump. You have to like just pour it out. But as for how it wore on my skin, it looked beautiful when I first put it on, and I did really prep my skin beforehand knowing that this is more of a heavy duty foundation. Even still prepping my skin, I found that by the end of the day, around my mouth here, or like, I don't know, my lower cheeks, it wanted to look kind of dry. So I think that this is one of those foundations that will look really nice in the summertime. My skin just gets a little bit drier in the winter. A formula like this will be really nice in the summer for when I don't want makeup to move. So at the moment, I feel like this is one of those foundations that I might just have to test again later. But at the moment, it's not my favorite winter foundation for that reason, but the shade matches me really nicely. And I was really, really happy to get a chance to try something that has been popular for so long. Okay, so this next product I did pick up myself. So this has been on my wish list for a long time because even though this is a high-end product, this is from Anastasia Beverly Hills, it is apparently a dupe for a Westman Atelier product, which is even more expensive. So this is the stick blush from Anastasia Beverly Hills in the shade Latte, and it is the blush that I'm wearing right now, and it is beautiful. It is beautifully spreadable. The texture is just very, very pleasant to use. And the color, it's one of those kind of beigey, nudie pink colors that really work well for pale skin. I've been really into this type of color lately, and I cannot seem to stop testing them. I have several like this right now, which made me laugh when I first tried it on. Initially, I thought it was gonna be a little more cool toned than it is, but I don't mind it. I think it's really pretty. Finish isn't dewy, I would say satin, but it does set down to be matte. It doesn't move. In case you were ever a member of Ipsy, by the way, I was an Ipsy member several years ago, and I still get emails to shop in their like little, they call them the drop shops, I think, where there's like hundreds of products on sale. That happened to me where I got this. I got this really cheap. I believe I got it for only $12 or $14, which is a very good price for this blush. So in case you're a bargain hunter like me, I thought I would mention that, which I say I'm a bargain hunter, and on this last product was definitely not a bargain. This is a special product. I asked my husband to buy this for me as a present. I was like, can you buy this for me? And he did. So this is a lipstick from Gucci. This is their balmy lipstick in the shade Ester Rosewood. First, check out that packaging. So beautiful. It matches their bronzer that they have out, which I do not own that, but oh my, I look at it every single time I look at Sephora. It's so pretty. So initially it was a totally different formula and different shade than I had gone to get as my present. One that had been on my wish list forever, but when I went in there and actually swatched out the shades and the formulas, I was really drawn to this balmy lipstick, which is the type of lipstick that I am just into right now. I have drugstore, mid-range, and obviously now a luxury one, and I just love them all. This shade Ester Rosewood is perfect for me. Ooh. Just, it's beautiful. While it is a balmy formula, it's not intensely melty, the kind if you get too much of it, it kind of makes your lips look, you know, mushy and kind of gross. Wanting to go out your lip lines. This isn't that balmy, but it's still balmy enough to feel really comfortable on your lips. And it is a sheer lipstick, which personally, if something is very balmy, I do want it to be more sheer. I have found that to be the case. I know luxury items can sometimes be very scented, but I actually don't smell anything with this. So if there is a scent, it's very, very faint. I'm not finding anything. So definitely not something I can get for myself very often, but from time to time, something like this is very delightful. It's nice. Thank you so much for watching to the end of all of my reviews. So now we can talk about the tea of the day. So I'm trying a chai. This one is from a brand called Tealish, and this is their Chai Darling tea, which I was really happy to see. It has pepper in the ingredient list. You guys know I always talk about how much I love a peppery chai. I think it's good. Not as good as the best I've ever tried, but still a lot better than others I have tried, so I am pleased. I just don't like it when they add random flavoring to chais. I want all the flavor to come from the spices, and that's what this one has, so that makes me happy. As always, if you've tried any of these products, make sure to let us all know down in the comments so we can all learn from your experiences. I really, really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in my next one. Bye!